being perverted, and if we use it for with good intentions to make the world better, then yes, this is a wonderful thing. So it's all about, it's not the word that matters, it's your intention that matters.
Yeah.
Greetings, Dr. Tulla.
How are you, Jim? Good to see you.
Arrived. Yes.
Good evening.
Good to see Nick again.
Yeah, we're trying to look up ethics, and I'm going through the. I went through the. Dr. Ramesh was telling us about being ethical. Now in law school, I had to take ethics. Business school, I didn't have to take it, but here's the thing: in business school, it doesn't exist. In other words, you don't take an ethics class because they don't even offer it. So I checked Stanford's business school curriculum, no ethics class offered. Now I'm looking at MIT. I haven't found one yet. So interesting.
From D to F.
I know, right? It's going to take me a while to go through. MIT has a lot of different tracks. So it's going to take me a while to go through to see if they have an ethics class. Ethics class, one, not just several of them, but they don't have any. So the thing is, when Dr. Ramesh was saying, well, we really need to teach people to be more ethical, to be good to other people, to be good to animals, to be good to society, to be good to our global environment, then I go to the business schools and they say,
we're taught to be this way.
What are you talking about?
We're taught to be this way in kindergarten, but then we start to unlearn it as the more we progress.
So I find that to be quite interesting. I'll do a report on it because he made me very curious, in the education area, whether or not ethics are even taught. I don't want to put Dr. Tulla on the spot, but in medical school.
No, but I'll be very candid with you. I don't know. I mean, see, Ankit is, he is a youngster among the lot. Disrespect to Jim. You're still young and hot and happening, so there is no disrespect to you. But see, what has happened is during my schooling time, I'm talking about ages back in the 70s and 80s. So in the school curriculum in India also, we had one class which was known as, there were different names for it in different places, but we used to call it a moral science class, right? So it was basically just to teach us the basics of the society living in which we were taught, what is right, what is wrong, how should we interact with people of our age, senior to us, junior to us. So there was a lot of things happening. I don't know, Ankit, whether you've gone through these kind of classes, because when I see my children, in this, so they don't have anything like this in their curriculum.
So we have a moral science class when we were till the class of 6th level, and after that it's all about taking science and maths and talking about doctors, engineers, and all those things. People forgot about moral science.
So what I am trying to tell you is, I'm sure Dr. Ramesh would have also, he's also a product of our age group only, so he must have gone through all of that. But Ankit, what has happened is, now I see my kids. I have kids who are in that age group only. I have not seen any public school taking, this kind of classes. Nowadays, it's passe, I think. So it is imperative on now, I believe, that the students have passed the buck to the parents, that they only teach whatever they can to the children. The school is not giving any, they're not dedicated classes on this.
Yeah. I'll tell you what's happening in India right now. All the schools are taking Zoom classes, and what's happening in the Zoom class, mostly they are sharing videos from YouTube and Google and all those things. And why they are doing Zoom classes? Do you know that? Why the Zoom classes happening during the pandemic? Because of the tuition fees. They need the fees every month, so that they keep getting those cash, and as per attendance, they are not taking any attendance. Whoever will join, it's all their point of view. And people are, also recording those classes and supplying and taking money out of it. And what happened is that every student needs a laptop, because, we don't have laptop for each and every individual in India. And when parents both are working, they have their offices at 9 a.m. in the morning. But the student or the kid, he's also having a Zoom class. So everyone is using technology, and it's difficult for parents to teach the students at this point of time, because they're also having a tough time. There are very less jobs, and people are struggling with it. And in that class, nothing is happening. Well, there is nothing what you can see happening. It's just a matter of passing the time and just taking care of it basically, because everything is all about Google and YouTube and all those things, which is already available from all those other factors. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I do remember, I'm sure Jim would be remembering and Nick would be remembering the good old days which we had. I mean, if we wanted to read about something, we used to go through 100 books.
Yes.
And Google has made that very easier. I would have loved if Google would have been in our era.
Yeah.
Right.
The amount of effort which
I
it
want to
took
say
for
what
us.
my experience was. We had, in our educational systems, we had civics classes. And civics classes were to teach you to be a good citizen. And now we don't have civics classes anymore. So
yeah, we don't care if we're a good citizen anymore. But the thing is, even in higher education, like I said, and I'm going to check that because Dr. Ramesh has now made me interested in this topic of ethics, because they do require that as a lawyer. You have to take it because lawyers, too many times you're in front of judges, or you become a judge or you become an arbitrator, and you have to be keenly aware of issues like conflicts of interest. Where somebody pays you to represent them, then someone else pays you to represent them. Come on. And they just tell you, look, if you do stuff like that, we're going to disbar you. I mean, they just can't have people like that in law. But then I find it interesting as I flipped over to the business schools that it's like ethics don't exist. Now, if that's true, that's a big problem, I think, Dr. Ramesh, that we're not teaching ethics in business, because there's a lot of business people that are also in very powerful positions. And there was one in the United States, I don't know if it got over to India, where there was a big push on opioids here in the US as a form of pain. And I know we had a pain specialist on earlier, and I'm almost going to ask him about that, whether or not opioids are pushed over into India like they were here, because they're very profitable, very powerful medicine, but very profitable to prescribe, and people became addicted to it. It was like cigarettes.
Follow the money.
Follow the money. But the company that was doing it was making billions, not millions, billions of dollars, pushing opioids down the pike. And what they would do is they'd pay the doctor cash to go prescribe opioids.
Honestly speaking, opioids, see, I'll be very candid with you. In India, you have various kinds of drugs available where you can do a little bit here and there, right? Opioids have not caught too much because of two reasons. One, because people are not much aware about opioids also, despite, I'm talking about the medical opioid. I'm not talking about the unofficial. We have the bhang and the ganjas which are available. They are also derivative of opioid only. So they are basically opium derivatives only. But what has happened is that nowadays, there are special kinds of lollipops, which we call them lollipopsicles, which are available. And there are certain kinds of opioid patches also available, right? And they are ideally, it is a prescription-based medication. You cannot prescribe it like that. So in our country, we have certain rules that only the doctors can prescribe it, and that also it has to be done on the letterhead of the doctor, and there has to be a stamp of the doctor, right? But see, laws are meant to be broken, so there is always going to be this where people are going to get their hands on, and that's what it is. But the government as such has kept a lid on it, and I have myself tried to procure these without telling the chemist sometimes that I am a doctor, and my experience in Delhi has been good. They did not give me the product unless until I took out my letter pad and then stamped it, and which is a good thing. I was just seeing whether we can give it or not. So that's a good thing which has happened. But then I've not tried it all over. I've just tried it generally in the pharmacies which are near hospitals, and I was in fact pleasantly surprised when they refused to give me the medication. So that is what it is. Ankit,
what's TB?
Tuberculosis.
Are you kidding me? It's a bigger killer than wow. I didn't know that. Tuberculosis? I thought there was a cure for tuberculosis. I didn't think that was
There is a cure. Unfortunately, we need to understand that. See, Nick, you are seeing one part of our country, right? So the program in which you are interacting with people are maximum people who are living in tier 1 cities, right? They are the
New Delhi, right?
You're not interacting with people who are living in suburbs and people who are living in, even the people you are interacting with the villages, I mean, there is a very different village population all across India. It's very diverse. So in certain areas, it is very difficult for them to even get basic health care. And unfortunately, this has been a tragedy over the generation of years which we had. So the governments over a period of time have tried to, I mean, do something around it, but unfortunately, they have not managed to do, I mean, what ideally should have been done.
Wow.
Because I mean, the vested interests were there for other things. Unfortunately, health was never on the radar of any government. Any government means any government.
Okay,
so that is why this is the tragedy where we are in. And unfortunately, I see this happening in US also. So I mean, if it was only happening in India, I would have said that maybe we were careless about it. But I presume US is also in the same sordid state of affairs.
Yes.
So it just tells the story. Ultimately, politicians everywhere remain the same. I'm sorry. I mean,
unfortunately, right. The thing is, unfortunately, right. The problem that we have, and then Jim brings it up, and it's been up in a lot of studies, is that half of the United States can't get their hands on $400. In other words, 50% of the U.S. right now don't have $400. They live paycheck to paycheck, if that, and they're not doing very well financially. The top 10%, especially the top 1%, the average person there will have $8 million in their bank account. 8 million. They'll make over $1 million a year, and they live pretty good because, you know, if you're making, as a matter of fact, the reason I had to leave the phone call is that I had a doctor client. About half my clients over here in the United States are physicians, and he's in Florida and he's making $4 million a year. And I'm going like, okay. I mean, that's you know, American price, but if you look at anywhere, that's an enormous amount of money to make as a physician to pull in $4 million a year. You know, you don't have to work that many years to do that. And but we see here is this huge skew of money. In other words, like at the top, tons of money, and then as you go down below, not so much money. I mean, it's just the way it is.
And the other problem, Nick, is that
this is a problem with the capitalist regime everywhere. See, capitalism speaks of that only. They cannot. I mean, see, you have to accept it that America is a capitalist country, right?
Oh,
so
definitely.
there, you have people who are innovators. You have people who are, I mean, entrepreneurs, and you basically take pride in that, right? Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in India, see, we have had this cultural thing of being, I mean, businesses have always been looked down upon until the recent very few years. So there has been this tendency that we pull down businesses. Entrepreneurship was never promoted in India, but then we have got our advantages. I mean, we are a typical amalgam of a mixture of a socialist versus and a capitalist country. We are somewhere in between. We are neither truly socialistic nor truly capitalistic. So we are in between somewhere. But see what has happened to you guys in US. For example, Nick and Jim, I'm sure. I mean, look what was the amount of money which you had to pay for your education during your years? I'm just asking you. And look at what has happened at the moment.
A long time ago, so it was relatively inexpensive. In other words, I forgot what it was, and then I come from a family that had that owned banks years ago. So we had trust accounts set up from the 1940s. You know, so for me, it was a kind of a different situation. I didn't have any student loans, didn't have to pay for anything. It's kind of like, you know, a good situation for moi. But when I did go to school, because I went to private schools, I thought, wow, I'm doing really well. The kid next to me, his parents were worth $100 million, and he's worth $1 billion. And he gave the University of Miami $100 million. He was my student mate. And so you find out here, you can be really well off, and you run into other people who are extremely well off. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast. But in any event, the tuition was around $2,500 for private school back then. Today, the private school I teach in is about $60,000. So to get a degree.
So just look at what has happened. So basically what is happening in your part of the world is people are dropping out at an earlier age. They cannot afford education. Now, isn't this a tragedy? Well, I would say as a country, it is extremely tragic that you are not able to, I mean, see what is happening. Ultimately, you will have people from outside who will be more educated. They will come into the system. They will take away the jobs, right? And then crying that, I mean, people outsiders are taking away the job. I don't think that's that is just like, the tap is leaking and you are running here and there trying to find that it is leaking from the pipe or somewhere else. That's what it is.
Yeah. Well, if you're in the top 1%, you can afford that education. It's not a problem for the top 1%. Remember, they have $8 million they can afford.
Then the problem is that 99% are not able to.
That's the problem. Okay. And the other problem is that, Dr. Tulla, a lot of them try to go to these private schools, not realizing they're not in the top 1%. Frankly, they don't belong there because they can't afford it. So they go out and get student loans to go. And then the student loans are a huge burden when they graduate, but no one counsels them properly to say, stop, don't spend all that money on education, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a huge debt to pay and you can't make it back. Okay, well, how could Johnny Jones, how can he go? Because Johnny Jones' parents is worth $1 billion. They go wherever they want, and you're not. Okay, and so the thing is, even though we talk about equality, that's baloney. There's no equality because there's economic inequality, and it's big. It makes a big difference. I mean, I spent most of my career prior to getting into qualified plans working in what they call the estate planning field. In other words, working with high net worth people. So my clients were the founder of Dunkin' Donuts. You know, he had multiple homes. He was doing quite well. The president of Philip Morris, same way. The founding family of Coca-Cola. They live a different lifestyle than the average American. And so the thing is, can their kids go to all these schools and pay it? Sure. But they're not equal to the average American. It's not even close. And so the thing is, this whole concept of equality is garbage. You know, it doesn't exist here.
And Nick,
it's a myth.
Is completely correct.
Of course I'm correct, Jim. I'm a master chess player. I'm always correct, right?
I did not go to Stanford, but my wife did, and I married into a multi-generational Stanford family. And the fact is that they don't think that they could go today. You know, although all the generations did, now the next generation can't.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. In other words, the thing is, the thing is, my son went to Duke, but he got a full scholarship. But I worked with him, and he actually did a lot of work himself for his PhD in electrical engineering by getting high GREs and GRE scores. Okay, but if we had to pay for it ourselves, I'd say let's not go to Duke. Let's go look at another school, because it's astronomical. It just doesn't make any economic sense. But what happens, Jim, is these kids that are out there are not getting counseled. I like the guy who's going to be on Monday from the University of Illinois, because he's giving a bargain price for their MBA and their Master's in Science and Management class. I mean, $10,000 or $20,000 to pay for a graduate degree. That's an American price. If you went to my school, okay, where I went, Miami, $200,000. Okay, well, good luck in getting the $200,000 back in business. I mean, you know, and a lot of medical doctors here, Dr. Tulla, the reason they think they need to make $4 million, they graduate with student loans, $250,000, $500,000. I mean, unbelievable.
This is the typical problem which is now started happening in India also. Because please remember, when I did my graduation, I mean, the fees were virtually paltry. Of course, we did not, we were on a kind of an internship kind of a basis where we were not getting paid. We were just getting peanuts. But of course, we were delivering peanuts also. I mean, we were paying peanuts when it comes to, the fee and all that. Nowadays, if you look at the fee, it has gone, it's nearly 100 times of what we used to pay. So it's nearly 100 times.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens is so now what has happened is suddenly people have realized that, okay, we are not, one, there is a good amount of course which takes, for example, to reach at my stature as a plastic surgeon graduate pass out, you will require 5 years of MBBS, 1 year of internship, 3 years of MS general surgery, and 3 years of plastic surgery. So that makes it 6 plus 3 plus 3, 12 years. 12 years at one stretch.
And how much is the budget for 12 years, sir?
So my time, the budget was very less. Today's time, the budget is going to be haywire.
Okay, if you did that in the United States,
then what happens is the people, when they come out, they have this tendency of going back and they're thinking that, okay, look at my peers, they were earning from just graduation, I am not doing anything. So that gets into a rat race kind of a mentality. So that is where it comes from in US also, I presume, that once they are studying for a period of time, they get into that rat race mentality, which should not be there, because if you subsidize education, I don't think there is any problem in that. I believe the concept of education should be education for all. It should not be education for someone. I mean, see, you just can't have that.
Also, I think that we need to cap education as well as medical facilities, because these both things are for humanity. And if you need to make it privatized, that also there should be a cap of profits. So you can have this much amount of profit. After that, you need to give back to the society, because in India.
What was that word, give back? Did you say give back?
I mean to reinvest, basically, because think what happened. If I want to open a college or a school.
Just a minute. May I take leave, because I have some other engagement?
Of course, Dr. Ramesh.
Sorry, sir.
You
basically ransacked into you.
With this ethics thing. So I got work to do tonight. I'm going to find out about MIT, Harvard, Yale, and University of Illinois' ethics on business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Grazie.
So, Nick, what happened in India that if you want to open a medical college or a school or maybe a hospital, if you have a good plan, government will give you free land.
Really? I did not know that.
The land.
Yeah.
The land.
But you got
a lot of rebates initially, but you just have to share some amount of beds with the government for EWS and below poverty line patients, and that's about it. And there are a lot of ethics, lot of liaising, lot of lobbying involved in that as well.
Right.
And also, I don't have a correct number, but to be an MBBS from a private college in India, private medical college, it requires a lot amount of money. So I think Dr. Tulla must be knowing that how much money.
Yes, absolutely.
It requires a lot of money, basically.
So as I told you, that it's 100 times what we used to pay. So it's nearly 100 times. 100 times, 100 times.
Yeah, right. I understand that. Yeah.
I was just kidding.
I was trying to figure out how expensive it would be if I went to private schools and got all the education I did. It would be about $700,000 today. But I didn't pay that.
It's a challenge. Honestly speaking, the governments all across have to subsidize. See, you cannot. I mean, you need to understand that America is great in entrepreneurship. So if you look at people like Bill Gates, they've dropped out of school, but they are not role models. Bill Gates doesn't consider himself a role model that he dropped out of school.
No.
And in many of his interviews I've seen, he never advises anyone to drop out of school. He said, I got lucky. That does not mean that you get lucky.
Hey, Dr. Tulla, because I used to live in Seattle, and my wife's family founded a company called the Westin Hotels. I don't know if they have them over there, but they were big.
Yes, they have branches in India.
Well, if you go look at it, you'll see her family. Let's see, who was it? I'd have to go get his name. It was founded. You go Wikipedia because I had to fact check it. It was founded in Yakima, Washington, where she's from. And the thing is, it was Dupar was the name. Okay, and so her cousin aunt was good friends with Mary Gates, who was Bill Gates's mom. All right, and if you know the Gates family, dad worked at Preston Gates & Ellis, a law firm. Okay, so the thing is, and he went to Lakeside, which is a private school in Seattle. This guy didn't come from nothing. This guy was already pretty well off financially. So if he dropped out of Harvard or stayed in Harvard, it wouldn't make any difference to him, as opposed to a regular student. He was in a different world and a different group of people. And so the thing is, what you find out, all these people that became billionaires were probably destined to be successful no matter what. And he's right. To a certain extent, he got lucky. He was at the right place at the right time. You can't beat that, But even the software, if you go read the software he developed, which is called DOS, and Jim knows this, the dirty operating system. Who wrote the software program? Was it Bill Gates or was it Tim Patterson from Seattle Computer Works? Who wrote it? Tim Patterson. Yeah, right, from Seattle Computer Works. All Bill did was buy the software from Tim and then license it to IBM. Who gave him the idea to license and not sell? Well, his dad was an attorney at Preston Gates & Ellis. He goes, you don't want to sell it to him, license to him and get a buck operating system or a couple dollars an operating system so you control the data. And he did it. So he not only got good coaching from his father's law firm, and also had the computer savvy from someone else. Well, he did more than anything. He put it all together. And then he created this huge company today called Microsoft. I mean, and you see the same thing with the search engines with Brin and Page. Their parents were both professors at Michigan. They were going to do well no matter what. I mean, so over and over again, we hear these successful, I dropped out of Harvard, or I dropped out of Stanford, whatever, not really. Okay, yeah, you went to school, dropped out of school, but basically you're going to be successful. The only question is when and how much. But the thing is, what it does allow, because they were able to scale it worldwide, that you allow the unicorn effect, where one person has billions, or today hundreds of billions, and then the rest of the world is starving.
Yeah, kids don't try this at home, because they were professionals. So don't drop out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because if you're going to play the odds are actually better to stay in school. But the thing is, at the same time, Jim, you have to be financially savvy about what school you're going to and how much you're going to pay for it, because you've got to manage that debt load at the end of the day. It's just the way it is. Yes, Ankit.
But there is one more thing, Nick, that education is something which obviously everyone wants to have it, but skill and exposure is something which is required at this point of time, because in the global world, if you don't have skill, you won't be able to sustain. And if you don't have that right exposure, if you're not there at the right time, maybe, so I'm in Delhi right now. If I'm not there in US at some point of time, I won't be getting those work which I'm doing right now. So it's all about exposure, it's all about skills. And if you don't have skill, you won't be able to sustain for a long period of time. So education does give you a break, but you have to keep on doing it and keep on learning it. That is what's more important. And that's what those dropouts did. They might not study, but they were doing something what they wanted to do, and they will keep on doing the same process again and again. And that's why they have become billionaires. And I'll tell you, the youngest billionaire right now we have is from India.
Really?
He's just 24 years old, and he runs a company called Oyo Rooms.
Yeah.
And what they do is they buy rooms from hotels, and then they have a big website which I think covering like 15-20 countries right now. And then they supply the room at a cheaper price.
Really? Okay, so he resells rooms. Okay. And
what our schools should be teaching us is how to learn, and not to pass a test, but how to learn. Because when I graduated, I didn't have any skills, so I had to teach myself the skills that I needed. And every step of the way, the ladder that I climbed, I had to teach myself again and again and again. And the schools don't teach you to. I had a professor that was my father, and he taught me how to learn because he taught himself. And so I grew up with books everywhere. The shelves were all full with books. And that was not a normal child's experience.
Yeah.
They did not grow up with books. They did not grow up with the.
Well, you don't need to grow up with books today, do you, Jim? You need to grow up with this.
Yeah,
the computer. But the thing is, you also have to know how to use this tool effectively because it has a lot of knowledge on it. But you got to be able to figure out, okay, how am I going to use this tool effectively for my education? I think you can find a lot of education on there. The other thing is you got to be able to decipher what is real and what's memorized.
That's for sure.
Okay, because
once we have these mobile phones, no one talks about the libraries and all those things because library has a different culture. People go to library daily and study and all those things. And now there is no library because it's all about Google.
Right. Well, that's because you can, I'm not going to say this, but Jim knows that as chess player. I mean, who needs a library when you have access to all this information on the internet? Now, I have some old chess books here, but Lord, I can go to the internet and grab all that information I need. So, and he writes his book, Just for Dummies. Okay. Which I'm sure is a great book because the For Dummies series sells like hotcakes.
Smartest thing I ever did in chess.
Yeah, the smartest thing I ever did was write a book for dummies. Okay, but the thing is, those things, people do still tend to read books, just like newspapers. People still do it. People listen to the radio. People still read books. But that's
people our age.
But people our age. But that's also not the growing industry. The growing industry is right here, which we're doing on IBM TV through the internet. Absolutely. And scaling through the internet, where we have a global reach. And you already know this, Ankit. Our reach is 4.3 billion people right now. No, it's higher.
4.3 plus 1.4.
1.4?
From China. So
Oh,
now
yeah,
we
from
have
China.
guidelines.
The thing is, it's hard to get the data into China, but basically you have a huge reach in a media sector, which, like Dr. Tulla says, is a very powerful sector. In the United States, we are controlled by 5 corporations. They control and people don't even know, they control everything you see and listen to relating to the news. Right now, you know what sells? Riots, bleeding, murders sell. There's a lot of cells. COVID-19, as long as people are dying, okay, bleed, it leads. That sells. In other words, if I want to right now listen to the news, it'll be about race, riots, murder, more murder, bleeding, people dying over and over again. Okay, and you listen to it over and over again. Does anyone do like Dr. Rakesh was talking about ethics and stuff? No, because that doesn't sell. No one wants to listen to that ethics stuff. Yeah. Medical doctors like Dr. Tulla. No, we don't want to listen to that. Let's bring those politicians on. Do you know it's so hard to listen to a medical doctor on our media, Dr. Tulla? They don't bring them on television. You get to listen to politicians discuss COVID-19.
We have doctors on TV, but they're just selling their own products.
Yeah, so that is I absolutely endorse you on that, Jim, that what has happened over a period of time is that doctors, they need to dissociate. We need to understand, we doctors need to dissociate from the corporate and the big houses, right? Our prime duty is towards our patients, not towards these big house corporations or anything. Even if you're working in one of the corporate hospitals, we need to understand where our loyalties are. Our loyalties are only and only to the patients which we are treating. And this is how it should remain, right? We should see what happens. Typically, what happens is that if you got a problem with, suppose a hospital unfortunately gets into a scandal or anything, you see all the doctors coming out, rushing, all guns blazing, trying to protect. My only thing is, and I disagree a lot with my medical colleagues, that we should not get into that. That is not our job. We should do what is our job. Our job is to treat, and that is what we should, restrict ourselves into. Leave the politics of things aside. Yeah, this has to happen with every. The doctor medical ethics remain the same all across the globe.
Right.
There is nothing different in Indian education and American education when it comes down to doctor ethics. They remain the same.
But what happened to us, Dr. Tulla, is that if you made a mistake or you thought you were told that you were made a mistake, you could get sued. So the malpractice insurance went through the roof. And so doctors had to pay for the malpractice, and then they had to pay for the insurance, and they had to do all these things that weren't about the patient at all.
So that's what the catch-22 is. We need to find a middle way around, right?
Right.
So basically, we need to understand that as commercialism takes over, people will also. We need to understand first. Medicine is not math. 2 and 2 does not make 4 in medicine. In medicine, there are a lot of cofactors which are working. For example, it's just like you can say maybe a game in an open area, right? So you're playing basically football in an open area. You don't know, maybe there will be sunlight, maybe there is going to be wind, maybe there is going to be rain. So you cannot cover all bases in medicine, right? So you need to understand that there is going to be sometimes that, if no doctor wants to kill anyone. Why will any doctor want to kill anyone unless and until he's a psychopath? You just tell me, who will want, even if a doctor presumably is a loose character, he is a moron of the first order, still he will not want to destroy his practice by doing things wrong or killing people, right? So all said and done, every doctor will want that their practice should flourish, and for that they want to have a good reputation. No doctor wants to have a bad reputation, right? So the intent is always going to be there. Unfortunately, sometimes things are not under our control, and sometimes our skill level is also not up to that level. So we need to understand that we need to first analyze ourselves, that how skilled we are, how educated we are, how much confidently can we treat a problem. If we are not in a situation of treating that problem, it is best to tell the patient directly that refer him to a colleague who is better equipped in that, because you cannot be you cannot be a jack of all trades.
True.
Right? You
true.
cannot be, unfortunately, right? So it looks very good on paper that I say I'm a plastic surgeon, maybe I can do everything. I do not. I have my own, certain things which I do excellent. There are certain things I'm not great in. And those patients, if they come into me, the first thing I'm going to tell them is that, see, I'm not a master in this. I would suggest that you go to this gentleman because he is better than me in that. But the first thing is to accept it, that you're not great in everything.
But it sounds like he has ethics.
So this is what we need to. No, it's not a question of ethics. It's a question of, please understand that ultimately there is a responsibility of us towards our patients also.
Right.
For example, if I went to a doctor, let us presume I'm a doctor myself, and I went to a colleague of mine, and he thought that I would be in safer hands with someone else. So what is he going to do?
Refer you.
Yeah. So if I expect that from him, so why shouldn't I do that myself?
Right.
So that's a simple trick there. There's nothing. I mean, see, we need to understand. And sometimes even if with the best of efforts, things don't go in our way, right? That we have to take it with a pinch of salt. I have also had, when in the ERs, people dying in front of me, unfortunately not able to do what we could do best in that situation. That was our best, even was not that good enough. So we need to live with it. Every doctor lives with it, right? But we need to understand that there is a thin line which has to be drawn. So we need to refer where we feel that we are not. For example, if a patient came to me who is grossly overweight, like 110 kgs or something, and wanted liposuction, my first thing will be to dissuade him, tell him you're not the right candidate for liposuction.
Yeah.
Because your BMI is more than 28. I don't operate with that. So I presume either you should lose weight or maybe get referred to a bariatric surgeon. Not try to do liposuction on that person straight away. We need to understand, and that is what happens also. Maximum times it happens. You will have some black sheep in the family. It is not possible that everyone is going to be ethical, but you need to, delineate that.
And I think, Dr. Tulla, that's why doctors are more accountable than any other profession. But I have a question for you. I know that it happens in India, but generally around the world, if a patient comes to you and he's obese, so do you refer to some doctor, or do you refer to a hospital, or do you just say that go and see a bariatric surgeon?
So, see, the first thing is, when, for example, an obese, let's presume a lady came to me, right? Now we first see how much is her height and what is her weight, right? And then based on that, what is known as a body mass ratio, we take out, which I'm sure Dr. Sagu would have also explained to you, what is known as a BMR, right? Now, please understand that if she does not have any, first thing always is tell them that you should try diet and exercise, right? That is the first thing which should be always told to them. And you should also look at the psychological levels. You should assess them, see if they're going to do that or not, right? And if they are hell-bent that no, they've tried, or are you sure that they're not going to do? In that scenario, you can give them options that this is one option, this is second option. But you have to choose what is the best option for her, right? Even if it comes to surgery, you have to choose the best option, right? Now, whether she wants to get it done or not, that's another question. But you should not be guiding them, biased on what you think you should be doing. You should be guiding them based on sound principles of medicine.
Well, Dr. Tulla, do you have patients that come to you that clearly from you can diagnose almost immediately that they have an eating disorder and that they emotionally need to eat?
Yes. So in that scenario, the first thing which we keep on telling with them is, see, as you've seen me with you also, I interact a lot with my patients. I don't believe that we have to have some kind of some different kind of a relationship where I am on a pedestal and they are lower down, right? So I interact a lot with them. I try to find out what are the vices in them, why are they not doing it, right? And many a times I go very deep into them, though there is a professional secrecy arrangement with them. I assure them that I'm not. Initially, they will not trust, right? See, Jim, it's typical that someone walks into me. Why should he be trusting me? Would I trust the other person? But what happens is over a period of time when we keep on interacting, because please understand, we do not tell them surgery the first time. It's never surgery the first time. First time is always, if you can do it with weight reduction, if you can try out certain kind of exercises, right? And we need to understand that that is the first way around. Because if the patient, even if she wants to get a surgery done, if she goes into certain kind of a weight and diet exercise protocols, it is imminent that after surgery also she's going to be very respectful of what the results of the surgery would have achieved, and she would not go into again the cycle of overeating or getting into binge diet, right? So it's very important that we understand that for ourselves also. So it is not only for the patient, it's for my safety and security also, that we know who we are operating. It looks very easy that someone walks into your clinic, you jump on them and tell them that you want to get this done, but that's not the way it has to be done.
But what you're making a very logical case, but in with the country I live in, this part of the world, logic doesn't seem to play any role in this. It's all about financials, and the doctor might think, well, I can make money off of this, or I can't make money off of that, and sometimes that guides their decision-making process. So I know.
So Jim, that is why the problem. See, what is the problem in maximum countries is that we need to understand that doctors unfortunately have become more towards the business side, right? So they will become more of businessmen, right? Now the problem is that if you are a businessman, then there is a catch-22, because then you are mixing business with science, right? That does not mean that you cannot be an ethical doctor despite being a businessman. But then the chances are that over a period of time, you may have a little here and there. So it's very important that we need to understand that we need to dissociate both of them, right? So when we don't have our own clinics, or we are attached merely to hospitals, then the chances of this coming into the SEEP is little less, right? Yes. I'm not saying that this does not happen. It does happen. I do accept that there are a lot of black sheep in the family. I will not defend doctors all across and just go along with that. The doctors are gods or something. That doesn't happen, right? In today's era, everyone has to be accountable. And I also believe that if doctors are transgressing that line and doing things which are non-ethical, they should be punished. I mean, you don't have an answer. I mean, you cannot defend a doctor who's not, doing it right.
But what about this? If we had a universal healthcare system where everybody got the same kinds of treatments, and the doctors could then go back to being for the patient first.
So I'll tell you very interestingly what is happening in COVID, right? So you have this plasma therapy which is being, floated in India as the magic bullet, right? I don't know what the status is in America, because what I read out of a lot of literature in America is they've virtually given up on that. So they're not very, very pro plasma therapy. Now, see, in India, what has happened is, I'll give you a little brief how it is done in India. So what is happening is that you are a patient. Suppose you are a patient who had a COVID attack, right? You were infected by the virus. So 2 to 3 weeks post the virus, when you are virus free in your samples and you've recovered, right? You can drop down to any blood bank in India, right? The blood bank means that the people who can take blood. Not everyone has the system by which they can extract that plasma, but maximum hospitals have that, right? Yeah. So what they do is they take out the plasma from you, and a single person can donate plasma for at least 3 persons at one go, right? Right. This is what can happen easily. Now now comes the catch. Now the catch is how do we realize that what is the titrate of antibodies against the COVID, right? So what they do is that there is a test, right? It's an ELISA test which is called, right? So with that they are able to titrate that this is the number of antibodies present per ml of that plasma, right? Now comes the bigger catch, right? Now the catch is, you have that the titer is there. You know that this is the minimum titer which is required. So if the titer is above that, this plasma is good to be given, right? Of course, you are going to do certain other kinds of tests like an HIV testing, HBsAg, the viral hepatitis marker testing, and hepatitis C virus marker testing, and other testings, right? And if you believe that this plasma is good to be given, it is there. Now the problem, where is the problem? First, when do you decide to give plasma? Because there is no homogeneity on it. Some people are giving it when they feel that the patient is dipping down, right? Some people are giving it at the end resort, right? And the third problem is that you don't know what dose to give. Right. And plus there is a catch, because there is a multitude of treatment which is also being given along with it. So how do you do a trial?
Right.
Okay.
How do you do a trial to know the efficacy of the product? Because you're giving, everyone is, in every hospital, the protocol is different all across the globe.
Yeah.
Someone is giving hydroxychloroquine, someone is giving azithromycin, someone is giving these antiviral drugs.
Yes.
So I mean, people are even giving ivermectin, which is basically a drug which is used for as an anti-helminthic drug, which is generally given for deworming and those kind of diseases, right? So there is a lot of things which are going on. Now, so how do we standardize it?
Yes. It's
Because we're not talking with each other. There is no standardization.
Right. I understand.
So that's the challenge.
And is it because this is excuse me, a novel virus? Because
because this is a new virus. See, everyone is trying what they think that can work. They're trying it out, right? But you can't have a solid clinical trial unless and until you are having specific treatment guidelines and treating it with another, comparing it with another specific guideline.
Control group.
Right? In all kinds of patients, because see, there is a lot of, trials requires a lot of customization to be done.
And
right?
It takes time.
So there is, it's a time-taking procedure because customization has to be done. You can't just say that Ankit and I both supposedly had COVID, right? I'm sorry, I'm saying that, Ankit, God bless you. It should not happen. I'm just giving an example. So if this happens, now you as a doctor tomorrow want to do a trial, right? You give me the same medication, you give Ankit the same medication. Is it going to hold true as a trial? Because my age is much more than Ankit, right? Number one. Number two, his body weight, my body weight may not be the same, right? Number three, height, surface area of body may be different. Number four, so this is, I mean, I'm giving you a hypothetical thing that this is how it is. And if you micromanage it, there will be hundreds and hundreds of things which are going to be different.
Certainly.
So in this lean period of time, what is happening is everyone is trying whatever they can. If it works out, media is projecting it as a magic bullet. Unfortunately, I think the answer to this is very simple, and very simple as I put it. Put ice on your head and stick to being indoor. Don't go out.
Prevention rather than.
I completely agree.
Yes.
I completely agree. And that's why, Dr. Tulla, you know that a lot of people are still at home in India. I know there are a lot of people are out as well. But we are very afraid what's happening with medical staff and doctors. And Dr. Sabgu is also a COVID positive now. So, I mean, I'm praying that...
I didn't know that. I didn't know. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope he's doing okay.
He's doing fine. Dr. Sabgu and Dr. Sabgu ma'am both are positive.
Oh my God.
And it happened, I think, on Monday, Tuesday, I think. Tuesday it happened here.
It's because they're on the front lines. They're on the front
this is what I'm trying to tell. This is what is going to happen. See, this is what the challenge is, kid, that when you are taking in and treating patients, I mean, there is going to be that thin line. Obviously. That one sneeze here and there, that one default where you adjusted the mask and, I mean, someone sneezed. You need to understand this is not your normal scenario.
Obviously. And sir, after talking to a lot of doctors, what I realized is that a lot of patients are thinking that COVID won't happen to them. And that's the wrong thinking. I mean, they might be strong, they might be immunity, but it's not that it won't happen to them basically. In my family as well, I have one of my relatives, they found positive couple of days ago. So it's happening across. It's not about any culture, any caste, any weight, anything like that. It's happening because you are not protecting yourself, and mask is something which we need to carry if you have to go out. And if you want to go out, it should be something serious. If not, if you can stay at home, that's more important. And don't go out for buying grocery as well. You can bring the grocery online.
You can try. See, that is what I am trying to tell you, that you need to understand, you need to be smart. Simple, basic smartness, basic common sense is what is required. At least trying to prevent it. I'm not saying that it's 100% panacea to all problems. I mean, unfortunately, one slip here can cause the virus. And unfortunately, the problem is we need to understand that it's a virus where we over a period of time, I'll tell you very interestingly, there is one thing which has happened over a period of time. So people who got infected in the very initial period, they were having, the doctors were having more challenge treating them because they knew nothing about the virus. right?
Yeah.
Over a period of time, you have certain kind of protocols which have developed, right?
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the hospitals have certain kind of protocols. So what has happened is, so it is a rule that in an epidemic, you should be the last one to get infected, if at all you want to, if you are destined to get infected, because by that time you will either have some kind of a treatment, or the chances that the doctor understand the disease is going to be better off than what it is going to be in the initial period.
Correct.
So
This
that is
makes
why,
sense.
if at all if at all God says that, grants you that, okay, no, I'm going to infect you, right? What is the time when you want to be infected? You should be saying it should be at the last.
Yes.
I should be the last one to get infected.
Yes.
Because then the chances are that, I mean, it's a numerical thing, but the chances, you are all chess players. Shasha is also a great chess player. So you understand that you want to take the fight to the last. You don't want to die in the very first initial period.
That's correct.
So it's just,
This,
even if the odds are down, you want it to go to the last.
yes.
Because then the chances are that you may revive yourself and try to get away and win the game.
But this is a
Or at
virus.
least draw it.
This is a virus without borders. If I can
Yes.
make a pun on my show, but the virus doesn't care about what nationality you are. The virus doesn't care about how rich you are. The virus doesn't care how old you are. The virus is here to stay, and we do not yet have an effective means of dealing with it. So prevention is the best thing that we can do. Be smart about not exposing yourself. Be smart about not getting into close contact with others. Wear a mask. How hard is that? So we want to prevent this, but we have the media, again, is not helping so much with this message, because the media also tells us what our leader tells us, and he does not wear a mask. And so he's not modeling the correct behavior for us. So many of us are saying, well, he's showing us I don't have to wear a mask. So we can't get this message. Even if we have you on the show over and over and over again, there will still be people thinking they don't have to wear a mask.
Jim, that is what I am trying to tell you, that we need to pressurize politicians into correct posturing, right? I mean, we need to pressurize them into correct posturing by virtually bulldozing them into, or ticking them off by telling them that you're doing wrong. Unfortunately, I do agree with you. Your president seems to be, he seems to be in the wild, wild west at the moment. I hope he doesn't get infected, but he should respect his age at least, which I presume that he does not respect on that basis. I'm sure the doctors must be advising him that he should be wearing a mask. I don't know why he does that, but then that is typical of your president. He's known to be like that only. I don't think half of your media does not even take it seriously. And him also seriously. I don't know how. Yes. How much do the people take him seriously? Because
but around
Dr. Tulla, I have a very funny story to share with you and Jim and everybody else. It's happened yesterday. I'm following financial news, so there on one of the programs, there were a panel of two doctors and a gentleman with the name Larry Kudlow. Larry Kudlow is financial advisor of President Donald Trump. Okay. And the doctors were wearing masks and Larry Kudlow didn't. So they were discussing a few things. So the doctors said that opinion. And then whoever was announcer of the program, he introduced, now we would like to ask Dr. Larry Kudlow. And somebody says, Larry Kudlow, he's not a doctor. Okay, then Mr. Larry Kudlow, okay. So he said something, and he said that the coronavirus is nothing dangerous about it. We will survive. We will make America great again and all that stuff. And then another doctor, when he finished this program, he said, good luck, everybody, and hope you'll be okay. The only thing what I would like to ask you, never, ever get medical advice from Dr. Kudlow. That was so funny.
So that's the unfortunate part of it, but I think the humor should be appreciated on that. So we need to understand that, see, ultimately at the end of the day, whatever way we want to make it, the humorous way, make it as a satire on the politicians, I mean, they need to understand that they need to grow up. I mean, they're just acting like whiny kids. That's what I see. I saw the Brazilian president also. I mean, he was on certain kind of a drive. I don't know. Maybe the male hormones are raging bulls in him. So I don't know what he was doing. But I'm sure sane people would not do what he was doing around. I mean, so that's what it is.
I hope so, but it does come from the top in many ways. They follow the lead of the leader, and this has been a big problem because I just got a message that they're predicting within a year 70% of the people in this country will be infected, and the hospitals will be overcrowded. They're already in Phoenix. They're already coming to crisis with not having enough beds available, and so they're shipping people from Southern California to Northern California. And this is a just insane situation that we find ourselves in, because once we tax, and these are the people on the front line, what if we get them infected? And then who's going to take care of the people that go to the hospitals? So it's not getting better anytime soon. And we have to take this seriously. We have to take this seriously as a globe, not as a nation. But everyone has to wear masks, take precautions, social distance. These are not difficult things to do. And so don't let your pride get in the way. Don't let your machismo get in the way. It is something you want to do not only for yourself, but for others. Do not commune this disease.
As a consequence, European Union just made a decision not to allow any travelers to Europe from 3 countries: United States, Brazil, and Russia. Okay, here we go. On the other hand, Canada does not allow in any travelers from United States. The border is closed for another month, and there are good chances that it will go on until the end of the year. Now, that's really something, because for Canada to make such a drastic measure is considering that US is far the largest trading partner of Canada and has enormous border with Canada, with the United States. It's a draconian measure, and not everybody supports it. On the other hand, in the last couple of days, when there are spikes,
There
you go. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even we have now, New York is not allowing people from Florida to go to New York. So it's become, we have to build walls between states now. It blows my mind thinking about the consequences of
Manhattan will not accept people from Brooklyn. How about that?
Yeah. Borough against borough.
Yeah. Yeah. Manhattan will change its name to New Brooklyn. And Brooklyn will change its name to Old Manhattan.
Well, the thing is that we could have done these preventative measures much earlier. And there's well-known people have come to the conclusion that if we had taken these preventive measures earlier, 90% of the people that have been infected would not have been. So it's a shame that we didn't do it, but there's no sense looking in the past. You can't change the past, but we can change the present and hopefully the future if we take preventive actions now. And we cannot, as our leadership is saying, stop testing, because the more you test, the more positive results you find. Well, the thing is, the more you test, the more negative figures you'll find. So, it's nonsensical to stop testing. We need this data. We need to know the testing. We need to do the contact tracing. We need to do all of these things. And instead we're unfunding people that could do the testing. So everything is going backwards from what I can see.
I can see the big problem, and maybe Dr. Tulla, maybe you have an answer or at least indication how to deal with that. For example, I like Anchor Christopher Como on CNN, who has his programs daily at 9 o'clock. He got sick with coronavirus. He stayed at home for several weeks, but he was still conducting his program via internet. And you could see changes of him, like physical changes when he just got sick, then slowly he started to recover. Today he is okay, but not 100%. But he recovered. Let's see. Now, is he got immunity for the other coronavirus sickness? Is he immune or not? Because if you, Jim, right, and there will be 70% of people who will acquire coronavirus, at least I hope they would get immunity for further sickness. But nobody knows really what's the right answer. Dr. Tulla, maybe you have an idea.
Yeah. So Sasha, the thing is, you need to understand. Now there are 2-3 things with the immunity part with any virus, right? So if coronavirus is a very new virus, so maybe we're not in a great condition to maybe comment about that. But see, what happens is that if you end up, it's a rule of thumb that if you are survived one attack by one kind of virus, right? So if you again get infected by that same kind of virus, so what is going to happen is a rule of thumb. I'm just talking about a handwritten rule of thumb.
Yeah.
That what happens is that the chances that infection is going to be brutal is going to be less. So what is going to happen is that maybe the infection is not going to be that that fulminant or whatever you want to call it.
Because
right?
people have
but then there is a catch.
right?
There is a catch. Now, if the virus mutates, right, and then you catch it, then what happens? Because then this is an entirely new virus. It's not the same virus.
So your antibodies aren't effective.
Yeah. So if I were to put it in layman's term, I would say that you got married to a lady, right? In the initial where everything was hunky-dory, right? Then she started changing her colors. So what happens to you then? You got caught? So you are in a catch-22. You can't run out, you can't run in. So that's what happens with viruses also. They're typically like wives. They can change.
Well, I think we might have got some really good news, because I think we're going to be told that there is a cure that's available at the Family Dollar store. Is that true?
I don't think so. I think frankly, the only cure that we have right now for anything is the pain that you're going to get from playing chess with Sasha. Okay, you have to put it on your head, and then put it on your arm, because lifting those chess pieces is really hard. There you go. See, so you need the CBD patch with lidocaine. That makes it work. But it's interesting